There really wasn't an intention to start a company or a business or a community. It was just a very raw, natural need.
Today we're going to be talking with Marika Frumes. She is a community builder, a facilitator, a connector, and a mom of two, and she's the founder of Mysha.
I didn't know that what I was doing was special. You know, I was kind of like, anyone can do this. It was definitely a lot of imposter syndrome about my ability to create connection and community.
Yeah. There's this like unspoken, just like sisterhood that you experience as a mom with other moms. If you don't have that space to go deep enough, you don't even kind of touch on it.
Mysha exists to provide the mom with not just the resources, but the people to hold her as she's navigating this transition. And as she does navigate and lands in her new space of, matrescence motherhood, it's the community that's going to continue to inspire her, continue to support her, both as a woman, a mother, a professional.
I'm Evelyn Mendel, and you're listening to Help Them Bloom. Marika, so excited. I've been wanting to get you to do this with me for a long time.
Thank you for your patience.
You are a very busy person, and I so appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
I want to start by talking about Mysha for a second personally, because I was connected to Mysha, and we'll talk about what that is, through my brother-in-law. And when I started looking at it, I looked at it simply from like a business perspective, and I was like, oh, this is like a mom community, and this is so great for what I do. These are my people, and I just need to like pitch my services, right? So you had an event. I came to the event really just with that goal in mind, and then I left with a completely different mindset. I was like, no, I need to actually join this community. I had no idea that I even needed a community like yours. So with that said, please talk to us about Mysha. What was your inspiration behind it? What motivated you to create it?
Sure. It's not a very sexy answer, but there really wasn't an intention to start a company or a business or a community. It was just a very raw, natural need. I was living in New York at the time. I was a community builder and a hospitality professional, so I guess enjoyed bringing people together and have been really accustomed to going through life experiences in community.
Yeah.
My pregnancy was not planned. It was a blessing. And I think that made it a little bit more intense in terms of like the radical transition in identity that started to take place.
Intimidating, probably.
It just felt very isolated. You know, my friends were Burning Man and at Soho House and asking me to join them for 10 o'clock drinks. And I was like, wow, I'm feeling horrible. And I'm also mentally just unsure of where I stand in the world. So I went through most of that pregnancy on my own. I tried to find my people. I would go to Hatch for their community classes. I would go to Fit Pregnancy Club for workouts. But the difference in, I think, community and education is like those places were there to provide an education, right, and resources. But I was really looking for my people and other women that were going through this at the same time. I didn't find that throughout my pregnancy. And so a week before delivery, I was sitting there and thinking of this village that everyone talks about and knowing like I didn't have a village. I had friends, I had my parents, but no one was going through what I was at that exact moment. So
that actually happened to me too. I was never aligned with
your friend
my
group.
Friends.
It happens a lot. I mean, we don't plan this stuff with our friends, hopefully, right?
I was the first one too. I can so relate to your story.
And so like a good millennial, I just went on Facebook and I posted, hey, is anyone delivering in January or February of 2020? Immediately, like pretty immediately, 18 people, some I knew, some I didn't, submitted their names. And I reached out to all of them and I said, how would you like to be in a virtual space where we kind of go through this experience together? I heard that this was helpful.
Wow.
Put everyone in a WhatsApp group. And as a community builder and a person that knows that value creation is usually a means to success for all, I just created some guidelines for us to commune. A couple months later, COVID started and the rest is history.
Wow.
Where, that first initial WhatsApp group truly became our lifeline. And throughout the next year, I would have hundreds of people reaching out to me asking to join the WhatsApp group because their friends had been sharing that, they were having such a positive experience. And so it took me a year and a half to understand that this maybe was something that people were actually seeking and needing, because I think sometimes when you have a natural instinct or a skill for something, and in my case, it's bringing people together and connecting, you kind of don't realize that maybe it's not a given for everyone else.
Yeah,
And
like they don't even know they're missing it.
Well, or like I didn't know that what I was doing was special. You know, I was kind of like, anyone can do this. It was definitely a lot of imposter syndrome about my ability to create connection and community. But eventually, with the help of some friends and obviously the existing community members, I was like, okay, this is resonating. Let's make it official. And so we started the company. And what Mysha is, sorry, long-winded story, it's, a very intentional community for mothers. And I think if you ask me what makes it different from a traditional mom group, first of all, is that we really just focus on the mom. There's so much out there for the child and the baby and amazing resources. Mysha exists to provide the mom with not just the resources, but the people to hold her as she's navigating this transition. And as she does navigate and lands in her new space of, matrescence motherhood, it's the community that's going to continue to inspire her, continue to support her, both as a woman, a mother, a professional. So Mysha starts as a community, but also becomes a huge network where we're supporting each other's professional aspirations, and where we're really creating architecture for community through experiences and events that are really geared towards helping mom grow as a human, as a spiritual human, and just a lot of self-development and growth.
Yeah, I grew up here, so I always felt like, I have my village, I have multiple villages, I think, but I really kind of noticed or realized is like there's this like unspoken just like sisterhood that you experience as a mom with other moms.
For sure.
And if you don't have that space to go deep enough, you don't even kind of touch on it. But even though I have these like lifelong friends here, or even newer friends, but we hang out all the time, I remember going to like your events and even the recent ones. And even though I didn't know anybody, but still like feeling just so held by everybody, and also feeling just like a pull, and everyone's so welcoming, and you just have already like, we're all in this together and we're all experiencing similar things. And there's something so amazingly powerful about that.
Yeah. Someone the other day said to me, thank you, by the way, for saying that and acknowledging it. But someone said, she's like, she also grew up in Miami, and she was saying that the majority of her friends are her childhood friends. And she was finding a big disconnect with those friendships. One of the things that I said in response to her was, of course, we grow and evolve, and potentially the way we interact with some of our closest friends is not conducive to deepening friendship. It's more, what's going on? Tell me. And we kind of regurgitate the everyday news and what we're going through in life, but it's not with more intention, with like, how are you really?
Yeah.
Or like, what is most on your mind right now? Or how can I support you? And in the intentional spaces that Mysha creates, by asking those intentional questions, we inevitably create actually real
those
deep
opportunities.
Relationship. Yes.
It's true. We're not like casually talking about these things at dinner, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, what stage your baby's in, or what did you do with your husband last night, or whatever, like things that are so the minutiae every day, that it's true. Your prompts. So let's talk about your prompts, because part of what makes your event special are that you come in there always with like connection time and with these prompts that really go deeper. So talk to us a little bit about those.
So, okay, I'll put it more broadly for anyone that's listening, that's looking to create connection in their lives with community with other moms, or just community within their families, any type of community. I would always invite you to come to a gathering with intention. And that is what we do at Mysha. And we think about, okay, who's coming today? Where are they in their journey in terms of motherhood, in terms of career, and what would they most benefit from happening this evening, right? So we create a prompt based on all of those things, right? And try to be really intentional to ultimately create connection and value.
Yeah.
So in a private setting, right, if you are getting brunch with your girlfriends, or let's say like it's a new group of friends that you've recently met and you're looking to connect closer, instead of going through what you did that week, or what's going on in your life, which do that too, but like try something new and throw out a prompt based on who's at the table and the things that you might be curious about or what's on your heart and mind that you want to explore. Because if you're feeling something and you're going through something, other people at the table will want to know about it and will want to support you through it. So a prompt could be, how are you really? And then everyone around the table has to like actually think about that. And it changes the dynamic of how we commune and how we interact, because it brings a moment of pause
and reflection.
Yeah.
And I love that you add the really, because we say, how are you?
Yes.
And that's not the same as how are you really?
Yeah.
Right? We're like programmed to be like, I'm fine, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you're asking something else there. You're like, you can just be honest and raw here.
Absolutely. And I think when we're in a group of women that are new to us, when we kick off with intention, that connection and friendship grows quickly.
Yeah.
Because it starts with a lot of depth.
I want to take a quick break from this episode to share more about my services offered at Hatch and Bloom. Whether you're seeking personalized one-on-one guidance or insightful group learning, we have the right support for you. Our private sessions provide you with the tools and strategies needed to support your child's growth. So take the next step in nurturing your child's potential and book a session with me today. Please visit hatchandbloom.co. That's .co. Or you can email me at evelyn@hatchandbloom.co. Now, back to the episode.
There's another component that I think is so powerful of all the events I've done and the things I've seen in your community. And it's like this concept of it doesn't seem to feel judgmental ever. How do you ensure that? Because that's tricky, but I really feel it. Like you can just kind of say anything and you don't feel judged. Do you think it's just that we're all vulnerable together there? Like, what do you think it is?
We are for sure. And I think, I guess I have to get personal on this one. I think my background, I'm an immigrant. I came to America when I was 7 from Russia, and I did not have an easy go for many years. You don't speak the language. You come here usually without many means. It's still emotional even thinking about it. But one thing I remember saying when I was, I think maybe in 4th or 5th grade, and just like constantly being bullied and being made fun of for being different, is like, I said to myself, I was like, when I am cool one day, I am like really making sure that everyone is always invited and everyone always feels welcome. And it wasn't until later in my life, in my mid-30s, where I was like, oh,
I actually made that happen.
That's why I'm such a psycho about this intention and, making sure that everyone has space to share, because we are different. There's extroverts in the room and introverts in the room, and people need a moment sometimes to share. So I think
it just feels safe though.
So architecting the space with just knowing that there's different types of personas at the table, and just knowing that we're all mothers, and at the end of the day, that is the connection. I think that helps to create a safe space.
That makes sense. And I want to share too, like I've been sharing with you, but I've been going through like a deep healing journey recently. And I've discovered, I almost feel like I'm just meeting myself, which is so bizarre of a concept. But I'm like, this is like, hello me, really.
You have arrived.
It's crazy to think that, like, who has been in this body for so long, right? It's really like such a wild thought. But now that I am awakening, I've realized that actually, even though people would describe me as outgoing and extroverted and all this stuff, I was just talking to my husband about this morning. I lived an extremely lonely life, emotionally lonely life.
Okay.
So no one would guess that about me from the outside. I didn't even know this about me until I have now gone back and understood that although I was around people, I never actually felt the ability to be emotionally vulnerable around people. So it was like we were all there together, even with my family. Like we were always together. Yeah. But things never got deep, and things never got raw and real, and the certain questions were never asked, topics were never brought up. So it became my own internal experience that I kept to myself. So what I'm finding now in adulthood, and as I heal this, is that I'm gravitating towards opportunities that actually feel the complete opposite.
And people probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what I think one of my pulls to your events, where it just felt so good to be in like an emotionally safe space with non-judgmental people who you have this connection. We're all connected, right?
Yeah,
but we have this really deep connection here. It takes away that loneliness, I think.
100%. Let's just be real. no one is having an easy time right now.
No,
like the
zero
world
people.
is not, the world is great, but it's not an easy place. And especially let's think who we're talking to here. Mothers, I don't think it's ever been this hard to be a parent.
Yeah.
There's so much on our shoulders that, hasn't existed before. And at the end of the day, when we are looking for our piece of respite, like there can be no masks, there could be no facades. Like it just has to be like, you have to like shed the skin and sit down and be like, okay, I'm just like, I just want to hang. I just want to feel nourished. This weekend, we had a clothing swap.
I know.
And it was a smaller event. No, but it's a smaller event, which when I walked in, I remember like I was like feeling giddy because often as the host and facilitator, I come in being like, okay, how am I going to create the space? Like what's, how
you're like in work mode.
Yeah, work mode. Yeah. And this, like, I was like, this is for me, And at one point, Julia, who was hosting, was like, are you going to do the circle? And I was like, oh yeah, right. We should probably have some intention, but like, that's what we want, like I described the event later to the team as like, it felt like sisterhood, the sisterhood of the traveling pants, where we were just throwing clothes around and we sat in a circle and quickly did a prompt with like why we were there that day. And it felt nice. Like I filled my cup, and that's, we all want that.
I know. And the other thing that I also noticed is you have people from like all walks of life, right? And I remember feeling initially a little bit intimidated because you have some very career-oriented, like badass people in there, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like they've achieved so much. You almost start to compare.
Yeah.
But then that gets all broken down.
100%.
Like you just like take away you put that all away. You put away all your layers. And again, you go into this, we're like women together, mothers together.
Yeah.
Like we're just doing life and experiencing similar things, similar emotions, needing similar connections. So it's a beautiful thing that happens. You just become like human. That's it.
100%. Motherhood is a great equalizer.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, you've done so many events, hundreds of gatherings.
Yeah.
You've seen so many women. What's something that you've observed comes up in terms of needs or things they're saying? What are they saying?
Yeah, sure. And just for those of you that are listening, a little bit of context, because there is usually a prompt in the gatherings that I've hosted, and this has now been almost 10 years, not just with Mysha, but the other community I ran before called Her. And so there's a wide, a large data collection that I have to answer this question. And overwhelmingly, my answer would be that women have a really exceptionally hard time asking for help or asking in general, right? And to riff off of that, when we do ask, right, which is, by the way, often professional, we don't do it properly. Meaning, and I would love to get into this, like if you are seeking a connection or an introduction for someone for something professional, what we often do is shoot an email being like, hey, would you be open to connecting me to so-and-so? Thank you. And that's really not a great way to ask, because what's happening in that dynamic is the person that's going to receive that is going to want to make the connect. But that person, like you, is really busy. So they're going to sit on that most likely, knowing that to be a good connector, you need to spend 10, 15 minutes crafting an email of thinking about, first of all, is this other person open to the connection, right? So sometimes you want to reach out to them first, asking, but crafting the why. So if you are reaching out to your friend with the same ask, but you've provided a template that they could just use to make the connection, think about how much more effective your ask has been and how much more likely they are to help you. So that's just like one example of a professional ask that I see very often going wrong. And then people being like, oh, like women aren't necessarily supporting each other. And I'm like, no, women we're busy.
Yeah,
we want to support each other,
yeah.
But we have to be really thoughtful with when we are asking each other for help. Like, do the work. Don't make the askee do the work.
We need to be more efficient.
And then on a personal perspective, which is so ironic, like when something is not right for us personally, those are the asks that we most shy away from, because of course it requires us to tap into our own vulnerability, into our own shadows, and our own human experience. And so we sit on that, right? And that collects in our body, and that often creates anxiety. But the irony is, at least what I've seen at these gatherings and tables, is when we are brave and we do put out a personal ask, that is when the table, the group, the room lights up, and the busiest people in the room will drop whatever they're doing to help, because we are as humans wired to support each other. And so if you think about the friend that you have that, you know, never has anything going wrong, right? Supposedly, and always is like, I'm great, I'm doing amazing, like crushing it. Are you like feeling like you really like want to be showing up for them and support? You're kind of like, they're good. Okay.
Right.
As opposed to the friend that's like, okay, I'm actually in it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get out of my spiral of anxiety right now. I'm overwhelmed with work. My kids, you know, are going through this. Like, you are gonna sit down and be like, all right, let's make a plan. I want to hear, you know.
Yeah, but I think also sometimes we have to almost take a step back, because I don't even know that we're always aware that we need help, right? And sometimes it's because of how we're programmed with what you're saying, like that person that's like, I've got it all together.
Yeah.
That might just be the way they're programmed, that they think they need to just do it by themselves.
Yeah.
So I think for some of us, that's a really good reflection to be like, maybe I do need help in other places and I'm not even acknowledging it. So before even being able to ask for it, I need to be like really truthful with myself and be like, how am I really? And what are the things that I don't have to do all by myself all the time?
You're totally right.
Yeah.
We have these circles before most of our events. It's called an intro circle, where we create just some familiarity with who's in the room and help you answer where people live, what they do, you know, like all of the fluff before you actually sit down to dinner. And one of the questions I'll ask is, does anyone here have a goal, right? And everyone will raise their hand. And then the next question I follow up with is, does anyone here have an ask? And no one raises their hand, right?
That's so
Which is, and I expect that, and I ask the question knowing that, but if you have a goal, you have an ask, you know? And even if you don't have a goal, you're going through this human experience, and there's likely something there that you want to discuss, right?
So you show the discrepancy, really, that we're experiencing.
And my favorite prompt that we, you know, now in at least our Miami community, we really know each other so well so that this prompt doesn't come up all the time. But when it does, it's always just as powerful as the first time we did it, is, what is your ask? And that is a good one to take home.
I feel like that would be really hard for me to answer. I would really have to think about that.
Yeah, it's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's powerful.
It is. You're right.
Hey everyone, it's Evelyn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your support truly means the world to me. If you're interested in hosting a parenting workshop, I'd love to connect. Whether it's a private session for parents, a school event, or a corporate workshop, I'm here to help bring valuable insights and strategies to your community. Let's chat and make it happen. Please visit hatchandbloom.co. That's .co. Or you can email me at evelyn@hatchandbloom.co.
A founder of this company, a community builder, a mom of two. How do you mother yourself?
This is on theme and brand for me, especially this month. So we're getting into May, which is Mother's Month, and we have this whole series of events around the country in New York, LA, Miami, and Austin, and it's called Mother Yourself. So if any of you are in those cities, we'll maybe link out some of the invites. But I had a really tough 4 or 5 months. Everything from like anxiety to everything going wrong at work. It was a particularly challenging period. So I've had to learn how to reset my nervous system in the last 2 months, and so therefore focus on mothering myself. And so the things that have really helped me get back to myself, I'm in process. Instead of doing my usual workouts, at least 2 to 3 days a week, I go for a walk instead. And I take off my shoes and I put my feet on the sand or in the water. And I'm lucky to be in Miami, but if I was in New York, I would still find a way to take that walk and just observe what's around me rather than being on my phone or worrying about things. And that has felt so nourishing.
So grounding.
So grounding, yeah. And also I'm working on just putting my phone away at 5 p.m. and just saying it's okay, you know, whatever.
Was that hard?
So hard.
Yeah.
It's a goal.
Crazy.
It becomes a goal. Like I have to like actually be like, okay,
Be like,
can
until
I
this
do this?
time.
Most days I can't even do it. You know, like I clap when it actually happens. So those 2 little tidbits for me have brought a lot of grounding in the last month.
Yeah. Ugh, it's so important to mother ourselves. Like this is actually what I'm going to be talking about next, but it's really like we just a lot of times assume this self-sacrificial martyr role when we become moms, but we can't even do it. We can't even do it right if we're not okay, right? So that's the whole irony of it. But we also just deserve the nurturing too.
100%. I mean, I think we are moving more into a time where moms are more aware of the fact that you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And while we will continue to have, this is like the story of all times, I'm sure, like guilt around our own time.
Yeah.
It's just maybe how we're wired, you know?
Yeah.
We're doing a better job of hopefully stepping away, you know,
100%.
taking that trip to Italy. Or my friend Geisha, who's a community builder as well with a community called Dreamers Endure, she just took a 2-week solo trip. She has 2 kids. I think they're 4 and 6. And she documented a little bit of it, but it was such an inspo where, you know, society like does not necessarily celebrate moments
That
like that.
happened to me last
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
But she needed it to
Yeah.
feel like herself.
Yeah.
And her husband did a great job.
Yeah,
So
that was my story. And you know what? I went during spring break, which is extra shamed. So they're like, it's spring break for your kids and you're not taking them anywhere.
yeah, but like,
And
F
I'm
it.
like, nope.
Make your own rules, fill your own cup. Yeah, a happy mom means a happy family.
Well, I thank you so much for being here today. And I thank you so much for building Mysha. It is, guys, it is beautiful. Please check it out. Where can they check it out?
You can go to our website, www.myshapods.com. So it's www.myshapods. And on Instagram, it's at myshapods.
And I want to tell you something, because you guys mostly will talk about like new mothers.
Yeah.
And I have a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I don't feel like I'm a new mother, even though I have a 2-year-old. And it's so helpful.
Yeah.
Even for the more veteran moms.
It's almost like there's like 2 companies within one, and we're trying to figure out the messaging on this, but
everybody needs it, basically.
Yeah, Mysha is life-changing for a pregnant mom that's, you know, going through it for the first time. And it is massively supportive for any type of mom that's looking to plug into a powerful community.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Help Them Bloom. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps us reach more parents like you. Every share, comment, and review really makes a difference. Thanks so much for being part of our community.